All right. So today we're going to talk about the Manfrotto 323 RC2 200PL adapter plates. It's too much. It's too much. Let's just call them RC2 plates. So I want you guys to play a little game with me. We're going to do a little shell game. Okay. We've got number 1, number 2, and number 3. I want you guys to drop a comment which one of those 3, based on what you just saw, is the original Manfrotto plate that cost upwards of $50 to get the combination. Leave a comment down below. I'll be waiting for you. Okay, so you may not be able to tell the difference just based on that quick glance. Nobody can tell the difference, but there are differences. And when you are using these day in, day out, you're going to either want the best one or the best for value, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And which one, I'm going to tell you, do not buy. Even if you get them for free, they are not worth it. Do not use them. Okay, so we're going to call this one the black one, matte black everything if you're into that kind of look. We're going to call this one the gray one, guess why? And this one, if you guessed it, this is the original Manfrotto that can cost up to $50 for the base and the plate. Is it worth it? We're going to find out. I'm just going to save you all a whole bunch of time right here. If you are the type of person who money is no object and you have to have the best gear, the Manfrotto is the best out of all 3 of these. However, there is some value to be had in the other ones, especially at the fractions of prices that we're talking about. So stick around if that's you. So we're going to start with the exterior. And some people may say, like, who cares about the colors, right? And I get where you're coming from, but what's nice about knowing these colors and breaking them down in this way is when you go to look for them online, it's easier to differentiate them when you can really see the colors that they are using between the grip color, the plate color, the bottom color. Those things are important when you're trying to differentiate these knockoffs and third parties and such. All right, speaking of grip, they all have pretty much indistinguishable grip on the plate right here that connects to the bottom of your camera. Grip is, of course, important, so it's tougher to move that plate around on the bottom of your camera, but one of them does move, and we're going to get to that in a second when we do some testing. Concerning the paint, as we've said, these are colored. However, this one in particular uses this gray paint that already just after a few days of use is getting scratched on that side and on the bottom side right here from twisting this D-ring. And the paint is flaking off, and I've had to clean this surface so many times because of that paint flaking off. This one, speaking of similar situation, the all black everything, if you look at the bottom here, you can also see that the black kind of anodization is scraping off. And again, it's leaving residue on my table. That is one of the downsides. Whereas the Manfrotto, solid. No discoloration on this twisty bit. No discoloration on the bottom of this plate when you twist into it. Super, super solid. All right, and the last exterior piece I want to talk about is these locking pins on the bottom here. This guy, and this guy. Those are all great on all of these plates. They all lock in the same way. You try and pull them off the camera, will not come off. All super solid. However, if you take a look here about how they stack up on the table, you will notice that the Manfrotto is a few millimeters smaller. It lays a little bit flatter. It lays a little bit flusher. And I will say, swapping this off of various plates and various devices, various tripods, that hasn't come into play yet. But I have noticed that this pin and that little area over there, when I'm sliding things around, when I'm swapping things down, I feel like that little piece is a little too chunky and it protrudes a little bit too much on some tripods. And it's the same on all of them. It's not like this one, the Manfrotto, will do better because it has a smaller pin in the instances that I've tested, but you may run into instances where that millimeter really counts. On some of these instances, I'm like, oh, I just need 1 more millimeter and this would be good to go. And that millimeter just isn't there. And so it would be super nice if these sat flush. I just want to put that out there for you all, that these adapters do not sit flush on things. You need to twist them off to the side, and you may not be able to place them on your plate that you're adapting from in the way you want to. All right, next up we're going to talk about the plates. So if you are going to buy these adapters and use the plates that come with them, this is going to be super important for you, especially if you're going to try and swap between multiple adapters. Maybe you want to try your luck with a few different versions. This is going to be important. I will say I'm using the Peak Design dual plate. Fits beautifully in all of these, better than each of the originals that it came with, so I highly recommend these. Link down in the description below. Okay, that being said, we're going to jump into the plates. We're going to snap each of these off, and we're going to take a look at the black one first. As I mentioned before, anodization is scraping off. That's kind of weird. It does have a D-ring on it, which is nice. It's smaller than the other two, which initially I was like, ooh, that's nice. It's easier to grip. However, I did find that because of that, it's tougher to get solid and secure on the bottom of the camera. The camera will twist a little bit because of that, which is unfortunate. However, if you want to, you can always replace this twisting screw with another one, and I will have a link down in the description for one that I recommend everyone replace these little things with. They're a little bit pricey for a screw. Again, one of those things that if you use it all the time, it matters, and that $6 or whatever is going to show in the long run. This also is the only one that has a Phillips slot in it. It has a score so that you can use a screwdriver or a coin to get it super tight. And when you do that, this doesn't come off anymore. The D-ring doesn't matter anymore, but holy crap, trying to use the D-ring to pry it back off, not going to happen. You need to get a coin or a screwdriver in there again. The D-ring becomes useless because it's just way too tight. So if you are the type of person that slaps this onto your camera, twists it down, forgets about it for the next 3 years, totally fine. The D-ring is not going to be a problem. But if you are the type of person that is constantly screwing this off, screwing this back on, this is going to be a problem. You are going to have to carry a coin with you. Even though there's a D-ring on it, doesn't matter. Your camera is going to twist around and it's going to be weird. You're going to have to carry a coin with you. All right, next up, the gray. This one has a bigger D-ring on it, which is really nice. However, as I twist that around, I find it clipping the inside of this bevel, and that is really annoying. And over time, maybe that'll like scrape out because the rest of the paint is scraping off of this too, but I do find that kind of annoying. This one, like the other, is also wiggly. As I try and screw it on the camera, you can see there's jiggle happening here. And right now, I'll bet you're like, oh, so what? There's jiggle. Wait till we get to the Manfrotto. Wait till we get what you're paying the big bucks for. So we have that. We have the paint scraping off. And that's about all I want to say for this one. There is no score on this. However, just using this D-ring, you can get it on your camera super tight and get it off when you need to. and nothing's going to move around. All right, on to the Manfrotto. Okay, so the first thing I noticed about this is that the screw is not wiggly from side to side. Let me see if we can get a better view of that. It doesn't move this way. It doesn't move laterally or up and down, so to speak. And that's because it has a lock washer on it. And as you're screwing and unscrewing these things, again, this is one of those things where if you're doing it a lot, that smooths out the experience so much because you're not wiggling it and missing threads when you're trying to thread this into the bottom of your camera. So that has been really nice for me. I will say though, again, if this is the type of thing where you're like, I'm gonna screw this onto my camera and I'm gonna forget about it for the next 3 years, doesn't matter. All good to go. We're gonna move on to the next section. However, for those like myself who are twisting these things off, because I have different setups for different rigs, I have different setups for photo versus video, and I know this is all supposed to be quick release, but there is no one system to rule them all for me still, unfortunately. But this has such a smooth motion as you're putting it into the camera. The D-ring is nice and big, and it does not clip against the edges when you're moving it around, and none of the anodization, none of the paint or what have you, nothing is scraping off on this. It feels really good. Definitely the best of the three when it comes to plates. All right, so each of the plates that comes with these adapters has a slightly different machining to it. They will interoperate together, but once again, there is one that stands out. I'm going to show you exactly why. All right, we've got the OG Manfrotto on here now, and when we try to clamp this in and out, super smooth, and when I really crank on this just a little bit, there's a little bit of play from left to right. All of them have that. However, what the Manfrotto has that the others don't is this tightness when I'm moving this way. Nothing is moving in that direction. I'm going to flip over to one of these other adapters and you're going to see what happens with those. All right, now that I have the gray adapter on here, we're going to see what happens. Side to side, very little play, very little play. However, back and forth, oh, what is that? What is going on? We'll do a little close-up on that and I'll show you what's going on. The lip on this, compared to the plate, the machining is not dead on, not nearly as tight as it is on the Manfrotto, and I hate to tell you, the black one does the exact same thing. So if that's going to be a problem for you, if you have your finger on the shutter while you're shooting, it's going to be a problem. If you are the type of person who is going to use this tool, or you're going to use a 2-second timer or a 10-second timer, you're going to push the button, get your hand off of the camera, let it shoot, it's going to be okay. However, I am the type of person where I swing my whole tripod over my shoulder as I walk around, and that happening every time I swing my tripod over my shoulder, I'm not into it. All right, so final conclusions. Between these three, I already told you at the start of the video, this performs the best. I have very, very few qualms with it. Definitely none that the others don't already have. Best you can buy. However, between these other two, I would not recommend this one to anyone. Between the D-ring being loose, between this quick connection very rarely actually snapping fully in, it comes to an almost in and I have to push it in just a little bit more. I don't feel good about that. And the scraping of the paint off of this one, it is extremely scraped off. I feel like that may even be contributing to this connection point right here, because as you can see right there, paint is scraping where we connect into this and where it locks in. This one, the black one, all black, this is going to be the budget pick, the value pick. It still has this problem where it kind of cranks up and down and it's not tight in that way. Everything else, though, pretty good. Does have a little bit of the anodization come off, but I feel like that's going to come off and then you're going to be okay pretty quick. Whereas this one, it feels like it continues to come off and it's just never ending and it keeps spreading out and the whole thing does not feel great. Value, do not buy under any circumstances. If you got the money, this is your man. I'm Kai Sosceles. This is 4Petal Films. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to hit that sub, and if you got value, hit the like.